Welcome here. I am Linda Paulowska. I am a storyteller who shares life stories, but I don't just stop at storytelling. I actually dive deep to understand people and their journeys. My goal is to improve human experiences, which led me to the field of service design. I am now studying for an Erasmus Mundus master's degree in service design, where my class is filled with passionate colleagues from all around the globe. And since I love human stories, I couldn't resist sharing their amazing experiences with all of you. So I warmly invite you to this podcast series where we will talk about the journeys of my classmates traveling the world and, of course, diving into service design. So, hello. Today, my wonderful guest is Oluwatobi from Nigeria. And as always, I take some time to think about my guests and to research them. And I have written down some things about Joshua. Joshua is smiling. Okay, that's good. So, how I see Joshua? He is very ambitious, focused, very goal-oriented, and I have noticed his strong interest in business, in startups, and of course in service design. I see him as a very curious personality, meaning like he dives deep into topics. He reads, he asks questions, and he is trying to understand processes behind everything. And besides of that, he is super friendly and trying to show interest in other cultures and generally caring for the people. And I know that because Joshua, you are the one in the class who would come to me and say like, "Hey Linda, how are you doing? How is your kids? How is your husband doing? How is your mother doing?" Yes, and Joshua is very super kind personality and like super fun person to be with. So hello, Joshua.
Hi, Linda. Thank you for having me and for saying all those good things about me. I did not know that.
Well, yeah, I prepare for every person. So
Okay.
I'm super happy to have you. And how do you feel? How are you?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling all right. A little under the weather, but I'm doing great. It's a sunny day.
Yeah, it's a sunny day. It's a nice day today, and we had a long day at school, so.
We did.
So Joshua, we are here to understand you. Like, I am super interested for you to tell me about your background. Where do you come from? Like, what is your background? How old are you? How was your life before we met here?
All right. Again, thank you for having me, Linda. My name is Joshua Olulowo. I'm from Nigeria. I am a guy. I'm male. And I am 25-year-old. So I was born 1999, just before the turn of the century. So it's a bit, I can say I'm in the older century. You know, the new century people are a little like, oh, we are Gen Zs. And I'm like, I'm not exactly Gen Z. But yeah, it's great to be here. And a little bit about myself. I lived in Nigeria all my life, up to coming to Europe last year. And coming here was sort of something I've always wanted to do. Not necessarily Latvia, but studying abroad. And it's been a journey for me. I graduated my bachelor's degree in architecture, so I've always been somewhat in the design field. I graduated in 2018. Did the mandatory service year that Nigerians are required to do. And I've been working ever since. I've been trying to get my master's.
Can I just like jump in a bit? Because
Yes.
I know some background stories. Tell me a bit about the school time in Nigeria, because if I recall correctly, you graduated bachelor's in architecture at age 18?
19.
19.
19
How is
actually.
that possible to have a bachelor's degree? Like, how is the like school structure there, meaning that you can get a bachelor's degree in 19?
Well, it's basically almost the same thing as here. So it's the regular 6 years for middle high school to senior high school. I think everything is around 12 years education
Okay.
from kindergarten to high school.
From kindergarten, so meaning like when do you start kindergarten? Like at high school, like how old are you? Is like for us, high school is like 18, 19. That's when you graduate
Yeah,
high
so,
school.
so just to clarify, my case is a somewhat of a special case, a little bit special, but it's not very uncommon. So in Nigeria, because most of the school system is private,
Okay.
so people can skip classes. I skipped 2 classes, for example. So you show promise academically, you could write exams that take you to the next class, right? So I did a bit of that.
So, for instance, which classes did you skip?
I skipped actually some classes in kindergarten.
Okay, that's a nice start. That's very promising for.
I skipped kindergarten, then I skipped what we call primary school.
Okay. Primary.
Primary school is 6 years before you go into secondary school in Nigeria. But I only did 4 years of that.
Okay.
Then I went to, and I was almost always the youngest in my class, so it wasn't exactly fun.
Okay, it
Right.
wasn't fun.
It wasn't exactly fun. I mean, a child should be developed all round, right? Even as the child goes to school. So the child goes from year 1 to year 2, it should be developed mentally to be able to take year 2.
Yes, yes.
But for example, I got into the university at the age of 15. That wasn't a lot of development, right? So the stress and all of that it was good academically, but maybe not so mentally. But
Okay.
yet it's very common in Nigeria where children have very fast education.
That's like very surprising here. And you also mentioned you have private educational,
Yes, I did. University-wise, I went to a
university
private
wise.
university.
So for the like until till the university, it's like public schools.
Public, I would say, but Nigeria has different grades of public schools. So my primary education, kindergarten, was strictly private, no public for that. But Nigeria has a state public and federal public.
Okay.
Federal public are usually very top-notch schools with high caliber of education, while state public schools are the ones that are run by the government. They are not
Okay.
very good in education. The classes are overrun, so you're having sometimes 100 students in a class. But federal
How many
schools,
students once again? How many students?
say 100, give or take.
100 students in a class.
Yes, a very large class. But then again, state public schools is a long story, but long story short is that the state, each state in Nigeria has the education system and they have schools where people can send their kids to.
Okay.
But most Nigerians don't send their kids to public school
Okay.
because you need to be extremely low income to do that. Most people would want to take the education and send their kids to private schools.
Okay, and then my question, because like you were going quite quick, because one of my questions in the intro was like, tell me a bit about your family. So tell me a bit about your family so we can better understand how did it
Yeah.
happen that you, like your family was very focused on educating you, and like do you have siblings and have a...
Yeah, I sort of jumped the gun there.
Yes, you
So
were
maybe-
super quick.
Maybe when you're editing. All right, so I come from a family of 4. I have 3 siblings.
Okay.
We are all guys. So I'm the second of 4 kids. Well, not so kids any longer, but I'm the second of 4 guys. And we all went to boarding school. Again, the boarding school system in Nigeria is very popular.
Boarding school meaning like you guys live in a school, like sleep in a school. Like it's,
Yes.
okay.
You live in the school and you only come home for the holidays. And most times the school is a different state from where you live, right? So the boarding school system is very common in Nigeria. So I and my brothers were brought up in a boarding school and would only come home during the holidays. So that's the family dynamic there. And most times in Nigeria, when you have working class parents, right? Parents who are working actively, especially in a city like Lagos, Nigeria,
Okay.
they just prefer to send their kids to boarding school because they can't really mix work and raising kids together.
Okay.
So that's a bit of background on my family.
Okay, and then your parents decided to send you to the private schools. You did it, and then at 15 you were already in the university.
Yeah, I actually went to 3 different secondary schools.
Okay, that's a lot.
I went to 3 different secondary schools. I mean, I kept moving schools and moving schools. One of the schools, I went to a military school.
Military school.
Yeah, so we have this military school for secondary. where it's being run by the military, basically.
Okay.
So I did 1 year there, then I went to some other boarding schools. But yeah, my parents were trying to find the right fit of school for us.
And then, okay, first of all, to me, it sounds like your family is very focused on educating the children. And secondly, the question arises, how did you get to the architecture?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So in my secondary school, the way the education system works in Nigeria is that for senior secondary school, you need to declare a discipline.
Okay.
So senior secondary school is divided into generally 3 parts: sciences, arts, and commerce.
Okay.
Right, so we declare that in senior secondary school. So the guys who go to sciences are the ones who later go on to pursue sciences in the university.
Okay.
While the guys who do arts pursue art courses in the university. But in the school that I went to, we had a 4th one.
Okay.
It was called the technical department.
Okay.
Right? So we were science, but we were technical. So we were doing courses like woodwork. We were doing courses like automobile technology. That's auto mechanics and all of that. We are doing courses like metalwork. So it was for guys who were going to go into vocational technical skills.
Okay.
So I did that for my senior secondary school. And then interestingly enough, I did not want to be an architect.
Okay, that sounds promising and interesting. Okay, continue.
So because I was on the technical department, I had the background of technical drawing.
Okay.
Like drawing with the T-square, drawing elevations and all of that. But when I applied for university, I applied to study mechanical engineering.
Okay.
But somewhat, I was not able to meet the requirements, and it was changed to architecture. So I did not exactly apply for it. It was that my grades were not good enough for a certain course, and then they dropped it down to another course, and I ended up with architecture.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know all this about you. So it's, okay. And then how many years do you do? Like you started at 15, you graduated at 19.
19, yeah.
Okay, you graduated 19. And then let's move to the working field, because you mentioned you were working later as an architect.
Yes, I was. So there's a program in Nigeria called NYSC, which is basically the National Youth Service Corps. So it's a mandatory program by the Nigerian government, which basically states that every graduate in Nigeria from universities and polytechnics would do a 1-year mandatory service for the country. So it's more like, I would not call it paramilitary,
Okay.
but sort of like a core service where the moment you graduate from a university, before you go into your professional life, you serve the country for 1 year.
Okay.
And most times you serve the country for 1 year in the field that you just graduated from.
Okay, and then you kind of like get like a mandatory internship?
Yeah, that's a fantastic word for it. It's a 1-year mandatory internship, but it's done voluntarily. So you get paid by the government, but it's sort of it's a cultural exchange thing in Nigeria, because Nigeria is very diverse.
Yes.
Nigeria is a country with over 300 languages, right? But we have 3 major languages: Igbo, Hausa, and Yoruba. And then the English language is the official language of Nigeria. So because Nigeria is very diverse, the government wants people to mix together.
Yeah.
But so that you don't just be in the community you were brought up with, we have the 1-year mandatory internship thing, where you travel to another part of the country where you don't speak their language at all. And you try to do your internship there for 1 year. So it's a country nation building program, you call it that.
Okay. And then, so now I see your life, you are doing this mandatory internship, let's call it that way.
Yeah.
Then you started working because...
Yeah, so it's a 1-year program, after which you get a certificate, and then you start your professional life.
And you were working as an architect?
Yes, I was working as an interior designer.
Okay.
An interior and furniture designer.
Yeah. Okay, and then please tell me, where is service design? Where do you meet service design, and how do you come to the service design? But let's not yet jump to the studies. So tell me, how do you know in Nigeria about service design?
So in Nigeria, service design is not an established field, right? So in Nigeria, we have UX professionals, experience designer, customer experience designers. but not exactly service design. Service design is still a very new field in Nigeria and Africa as a whole, I would say. I've met a couple of African firms that do service design, but there are not a lot of them, right? So in Nigeria, a lot of designers do service design, but they may not call it by that name because the market is not really there for it.
Okay. And then the question, how did you get there? And then I will have a middle question, next one too, so
Yes.
our audience as well understands what are we talking about. So tell me, what is service design? Like, how do you get to the service design?
That's a question I keep asking myself. So, if you remember, it was one of the things we had to answer, one of the questions we had to answer while we were applying for the program.
Yes.
Right? And to me, service design was not a passion that I came up with. It was something that I had to find myself. Let me explain what that means. So, when I found out about this program,
Okay.
that was literally the first time I heard of the word service design.
Okay.
Then I was like, that's interesting. What's that, right? What's service design? And then I researched it. And then the more I researched it and found out about it, I already noticed that it was some of the work that I was doing already, right? So the challenge for me was to now tie how my work is related to service design. So I'll start from my passion. My passion is the design of things. In architecture, the design of environments, right? To make that works for people. And then you learn a little bit about design thinking and how people can shape their environment. And then the environments that they shapes them.
Okay.
So that's how I found my link to service design. And to be honest, I was sort of burnt out from architecture for a point. So I was looking for a breakout. And I was looking into UX design and UX research. And then service design came along. And it was something that I could just tie into.
Okay. And then now I have a very tricky question for you.
Yes.
How do you describe service design, and how do you make people who are not in the service design to understand what are you going for and what is service design in simple words? Tricky one, right?
It's a very tricky question because for the first semester, I would randomly walk up to people and ask what is service design. And you could see their face, right?
And you're like, you have like made it to the class and you're asking people, what is service design? What do we do here?
Exactly. So it's just like the joke with corporate consultants when you go and ask them what they do and they cannot exactly tell you what they do, but they do it every day. Service design is sort of like that. But for me, basically, I don't want to be a banner, but service design is the design of services, basically. But that does not help anybody, right? So we could say service design is the design of services that improve customers' experience, but not only customers' experience, all across the lifespan of the service. So designing the front and the back of the service, touching even the employees, right? So that's what service design is for me, overhauling something and trying to make it work for everybody. Because user experience was strictly focused on users, right? Customers' experience was strictly focused on customers, but nobody really cared about the people who were making the service work.
Yes.
Which is where service design comes in. It's just a mindset, a way to approach problem solving, basically, is how I see service design. That's why it's very interdisciplinary, so you can apply it to so many things. Just have the mindset, the holistical mindset, co-creation mindset, and apply it in various walks of life.
Okay, this is like great.
It's a very long explanation.
And it's great, like it perfectly like shows how you view it. And then you already touched this topic, but I had a question like, how do people perceive this kind of things like service design, or like call it similarly like how the human experience in services in Nigeria? You already mentioned like there is no discipline like called service design, but do people actually like in government, in business, in all sorts of services, do they actually have this mindset that we need to design services for people? And that's something that we do intentionally, and that's what we go for.
Well, in Nigeria, I would say in the tech industry, the technological industry, people would mostly relate to it because, of course, they are coming from design, UX field, CX field, and maybe in business design. Because interestingly enough, sometime last year, just before I got into SDSI, I was doing this program. It was an executive MBA. I would not call it an MBA, but an executive program with Stanford School of Business. We had this professor that flew in. He was facilitating a program under Stanford for my company. It's called the Stanford Seed Program.
Okay.
It's basically a program for companies that meet a certain requirement, but that can scale.
Okay.
That can scale to become a large corporation somewhat. So they come there and help you to try and rearrange your service and see how it's done. So in the process of that course that we're taking, a lot of the methodologies was design thinking and a lot of the things that we use in service design.
Yes.
So in Nigeria, going back to Nigeria, service design is mostly used in business design and in the tech industry. But it would not be very common in public services or the regular everyday life. So it was very niche, business design and tech industry.
Okay, I got it. And then, now, like you told me about this course that you took, and there was a lot about like methods we use in service design.
Yes.
And then before you mentioned that actually you didn't know the naming of service design, and then but do I understand clearly? So now we are going to how did you get here in this Erasmus Mundus Master's program, which is called Service Design Strategies and Innovations. So
Yes.
for you, first you knew about Erasmus Mundus, and
Yes.
then from like searching Erasmus Mundus, that's how you found out there is a wording called service design.
Yes, you are correct. But you know that I knew about Erasmus Mundus before service design, but your listeners probably don't. So for context, I have been applying for scholarships for a long time, right?
That's very interesting because, just to jump in, for me it's totally different. I was applying for this program, service design.
Yes.
I didn't know about Erasmus Mundus. So you knew about Erasmus Mundus.
Yes. So just what you said now is what I usually talk about. So you have there's this joke that we make in architecture. We have the artistic people, the passionate people who were natural born architects, natural born artists. They could sketch, they could do all of that. Then there's the rest of us who came into this field and we're trying to make it work. We are trying to build the passion. So some people are born with passion and an ability to do things. Then there's the rest of the world who have to train in order to get a level of expertise. So I would say for you, you were searching for service design because you were passionate about it. It was something you really wanted to do. And then there's the rest of us who stumbled into it by a stroke of good luck.
Okay.
And then we found that it's our calling.
Okay, and then to give our listeners a context, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
so we are now enrolled in the Erasmus Mundus master's degree called Service Design Strategies and Innovations.
Yes.
And to build it up a little bit more, now we need drums because there were, 700 people were applying for this program to get
Yes.
in for 32 spots. I think we were 32 in that year.
Yes, we were 32 at the beginning.
Yeah, and now we have been studying together for 1 year, so we are
Exactly.
like halfway there. So for you, like you started saying that you were applying for several Mundus scholarships.
So basically, I was applying for scholarships, which means that I've been applying for design masters
Yeah.
for maybe 3 years. So that's not just Erasmus, a lot of other scholarships, Commonwealth, Chevening in the UK, Politecnico di Milano in Milan there.
Okay.
And there was this Erasmus program I applied to, Smart Cities and Communities.
Okay.
So for me, it wasn't that I was looking for service design, it was that I was looking for a design master's that could fit my interests and my passion, right? So by the time I stumbled upon service design, back to the story I was telling earlier, by the time I stumbled upon service design and I started to research it more, I began to see the way it connected to what I already do, right? So I began to see the way the user research and the design thinking was already some of what I did. And then the course I talked about that I did with Stanford,
Yes.
a lot of it I could see, oh, this is just this. So I figured out that it was just a way of telling my story, right? Because when I was applying, SDSI, which is short for Service Design Strategies and Innovation, showed on the program that they were going to be accepting people from diverse fields, right?
Yes.
From design, from business, from technology, from management. And it was just about telling your story on how you came to be and how your passion into service design has evolved. So I needed to take a bit of time to calm down and trace back my journey, my academic journey, my professional journey, and see how everything has brought me to this point and how it relates to service design. So I think that was it for me, telling my story, my life experiences, my work experiences, and tailoring it into pursuing service design as a newfound career is what helped me for the... And then we are here.
Yes, yes, yes. And then continuing about our experience, so the program is structured that we have to study in 3 locations in Europe. So first one is Latvia, like small European country Latvia, and in a tiny town called Kuldiga.
Kuldiga.
Yes. The second year is we're gonna split it between Tallinn, Estonia, and Rovaniemi in Finland. And now it's been like 1 year since you are in Latvia.
It has.
And in Kuldiga, which is a tiny, tiny town, very historical town, and like very different because it's not like super international town here. So
it's a beautiful town.
It's a beautiful town, yeah. And tell me, how do you feel like? Because I'm trying to imagine life from your perspective. So because I'm Latvian, so it's easy for me. I was born here. So, but then for you, you came in our class. And you like basically you arrived Latvia, then you arrived this tiny town. Tell me, what was your impression? What do you think about this? Because I know you have been also like very interested in culture, in foods, like in things we do here. Tell me, how do you feel about this, and how do you like it or don't like it? I know you might have a lot to say about food because when we go out for lunch, you are like, what is this white thing in my food? What is this thing in my food? So go ahead, tell me, how do you feel about all this?
Yes, thank you. So, just to preface, right, I come from Lagos, Nigeria. To give a bit of context, Lagos, Nigeria is the economic capital of Nigeria. So it means it's basically the business hub of Nigeria. And Lagos, Nigeria is a population of 160 million people, for context. 15 million people.
15, for context.
15, Lagos. But Nigeria as a whole is 160 million. So for context, Lagos is what they call a mega city. So it's sort of very fast-paced. So think New York kind of thing, where everything is fast. We live life on fast forward. You know, when you're watching a movie and then you put fast forward. So life is very chaotic where I come from because very fast paced. Coming to Latvia and then to Kuldiga was sort of like, I give the illustration, it's like you go for a vacation to the woods, right? So you are leaving the bustling city, the noise, the traffic, the stress, and then you're coming for a vacation. So that's what it's been for me. It's been 1 year of vacation.
Oh, okay. I am very happy to hear this, but I believe there might be some...
Yeah, we are getting there. So it's been 1 year of vacation. So my first impression of Latvia, and then specifically Kuldiga, I would say is awe. Awe is spelled A-W-E, which is another word for surprise, right? Because I have an architecture background, that was the first thing that caught my eye. I remember for the first couple of weeks I was here, I kept on thinking that how is it possible that these buildings have been standing for so long? How is it possible that these stones have been here for so long? And I was just, I understand how architectural preservation works, but then again, I kept thinking, because Kuldiga is an historical area, we have the UNESCO thingy, and the buildings are old, the bridge is old, everything is old.
And in Nigeria?
In Nigeria. So
in Lagos.
The reason why I was very curious about that is because in architecture in Nigeria, we have this problem. it's like a generational long problem. So it's like they call it it's like a problem that everybody's trying to solve. So Nigeria was colonized, right? And one of the things that come with colonization is that you lose a lot of your culture, you lose a lot of your history. And one of the things we lost is our architectural history. So a lot of architecture in Lagos is Brazilian architecture.
Okay.
Which is basically, we call it the face me, I face your apartment, but it's the long corridor with the houses by the side. It's very Brazilian-like, right? So we could trace that back. So African architecture in Lagos is missing. So everybody's trying to figure, so you have people, professors writing theses, trying to figure out what was our architecture before all of that. So that's why I was very curious, that how was your architecture preserved? So I would be walking down the streets, walking the streets of Kuldiga, and be thinking, this is beautiful, this is wonderful. But then again, I grew tired of it very quickly, right? Coming from a very busy city where the vehicle is trying to kill you. And then coming to Kuldiga, where people are actually waiting for you, the cars are waiting for you to cross the road. You know?
Yes. Yes.
I was joking with some of my classmates who come from larger cities, and they tell me that they are very suspicious when they're trying to cross because the car stops and tells them to pass. And they're thinking in their mind, is this guy trying to kill me?
You know, when we were in Thailand, it was the opposite because we would be just crossing the road,
Yes.
like where these like white lines are, and cars wouldn't stop, and we would be
Exactly.
like, why are you trying to kill me? We are just crossing. But then in Bangkok, like nobody actually cares about it.
You know, when you're a child, they teach you if you're gonna cross the road, you look to the left and the right, then cross. But I have a philosophy back in Nigeria that you just walk into the road and figure it out. Because looking to the left or right is not going to help you. But yeah, that was it. Coming from a busy city into Latvia, the nature, everything is beautiful. But then I grew tired of it very quickly. And the food, oh God. Nigeria has very spicy delicacies, very spicy food. So adjusting wasn't very easy. Latvian we have very blunt taste here, right? So it wasn't really working for me.
In October, you were approaching me, Linda, where can I get a good food here?
Yeah. So I tell Linda this joke. I just say I eat in Latvia so that I don't die. Not because I'm actually enjoying the food, but yeah.
Okay. So, but can you say a bit about the culture? Because culture,
Latvian culture.
yeah,
or
Latvian
Nigerian
culture. Latvian culture. How do you feel about that? Because we are a bit more introverted. And how did you feel here?
I think African culture is very community based, very community like. So everybody's always in everybody's business, right? So it's very social. But personally, I'm somewhat of an introvert myself, right? So even back home, I was the odd one out. So I was the guy who would get home because I was a work addict, right? I was working too much. I would get home on Friday, and I would not step out of my apartment until Monday. So I was an introvert already. So it wasn't really a cultural shock for me yet. Oh, but my first ride to Kuldiga, I remember I was on the bus coming from Riga. That was the first time I ever got here. And we were driving for 2 hours. Then it was 3 hours, and I was wondering if I'd missed my bus stop. And then I was on the bus seated, and across me, there was this old man. And I was trying to ask him, have we reached Kuldiga? And the guy just looked at me and faced front. And then I was like, oh, he probably didn't hear me. So I was trying to ask him again. And he was trying to avoid me. I was like, oh, I'm in trouble today. So yeah, Latvians are cold. Personality-wise, I don't mind it because I like to mind my business. But yeah.
You're just trying to be polite here, right?
Trying to be polite.
Because it's like I am Latvian watching to hear what he is going to say about my culture. So come on,
All right. So I'll say this. Another joke that I usually say when I first got here was that I came to Kuldiga knowing that I was going to be a walking museum for Latvians. I came to Kuldiga. To be honest, before service design, SDSI, this master's program, I had never heard of Latvia. I had never heard of Latvia. So I got the scholarship and I was like, what is Latvia? Then I was on YouTube browsing famous spots in Latvia, what's their food, what's the culture like. And coming to Kuldiga, I realized that some of the people in Kuldiga had never seen an African before, right? So I came with the understanding that people are going to be staring at me a lot.
And do you feel actually that's happening?
Oh God.
Yes.
Not only do I feel,
Because to give a context, Kuldiga is not super international. You
Yes.
don't really get to meet.
it's Latvian history, right? You guys, because of the kind of history you had, how you guys were colonized and all of that, you have not had much interaction with the African continent, right? So that's understandable. But it was something different. I used to tell myself that I have a very thick skin. I don't get offended very easily. Because, in countries like America, where they talk about racism and all of that, is a big thing. But I don't really take it personal. But it's big in Latvia, right? So everybody's staring. You can hear people talking about you, but you don't understand the language. But they're talking about you. You walk into spaces and everywhere just grows quiet. And I did not really mind it at some point, but I think it got to me at some point. But I just saw it as the first time that Latvians were saying an African. I told you about the funny incident where I would walk into a store the first month I came and people would want to take picture with me.
Yes, you told me, and you were the one telling me about someone trying to touch your skin.
Oh, she's my friend now. She came.
Now
she
she's
was
your
like,
friend.
But
I think also when you say like people looking at you and like talking something, I would think that that's not in kind of like in a bad way. It's more or less like a curiosity.
yeah.
It is not like in a bad way that you should be like hiding and stuff. I would say that's more or less. Well, but that's
You would be right. You would be right. It's probably curiosity. But then again, cultural differences, right?
Well, also, I think Latvian culture is not that open that we could just go to you and ask you like, hey, where do you come from? What do you do here? So we would be just like on the side standing.
I've actually had a few of those interactions, but those were in bars, so people were drunk then, so we can't count that. But then again, cultural differences, because I've had interactions with some of our classmates from Asia who this happened to them and they were very bothered about it, right? Or the fact that you were walking past people and then you hear people laughing. It doesn't, even in as much as I think it's curiosity, if it happens over and over and over again, it begins to tear at you, right?
Yeah.
But then again, like I said, I have a thick skin, so I don't usually take this personal because what's our dog's back. But yeah, that's how it has been basically.
But let's go back to the story of someone wanting to take a photo with you.
Yes. That was the store before Drogas.
The little
Should
store.
I say that?
No, probably.
Yeah.
Let's not name the store, but okay.
Yeah, and the lady another lady came over and was touching my skin. I could tell that she was autistic.
Okay.
Yeah, and funny enough, I would call her my passerby friend now because I see her on the streets a lot. And she's like, how you doing? And we do the high five and all of that. So she's cool. I really don't have a problem with that. And most of the time, I have conversation with people that I don't read meaning into it, right? Mostly because I have too much problems. I'm thinking I have so much problems that if someone is trying to be different to me, I don't have time to process it because I'm wrapped up in my own world. But basically, it's been a ride. It's been a ride in Kuldiga and Latvia. I was telling our classmates that it's so sad that we are leaving now because now the weather is just improving.
Yeah, this summer is great here.
It's great right now. I mean, at the start of spring, I came out of my apartment and I was like, where are these people from?
Yeah, suddenly there are a lot of people.
Suddenly there are a lot of people here, right? And it's good to see. And we had the winter months and all of that. But yeah, it's good. Moving on from Latvia, it's good.
Yeah, because like now we are like having our last 2 weeks here, and then we move. And then I have like, do you have anything in your mind that like, I'm trying to imagine myself if I would go to Nigeria for a while, I would probably have some takeaways to learn. both positive, negative. Do you have something that you would think of like this was an interesting thing that I noticed in their culture? I would like to take it home and stuff. Do you have anything? The hard question makes you think.
So because of the way my mind works, right? Because of the way my mind works, I'm always analyzing things. For example, Latvia's architecture is great. Another great thing about Latvia is the nature, the preservation of the nature. It's wonderful. So as spring came, I and a few of my classmates have had the chance to explore Latvia. So we've been to a couple of towns. We've been to Sigulda, Jumala, Ventspils, Liepaja, and a couple of other towns I've forgotten the name now. Just last weekend, we visited Tessis.
Thesis. Yeah, you were in thesis.
And a couple of other towns again, I've forgotten the names. But one thing that was very common there is the nature conservation. It's incredible. So you have large areas of land with nature, trees, and it's being kept. That's something that is not so focused on back in Nigeria because there's a lot of deforestation happening. So a lot of encroachment into nature and all of that. So it's one thing that strikes me, and I'm like, policies are actually working here, and it's something that we're lacking there. So that's something that never ceases to amaze me. It's amazing nature conservation. On the negative side, well, people that come from large cities will tell you, because they are used to a very fast life, they are used to more stimulation. So they are used to more partying, more traffic. It's just like an alcoholic, right? An alcoholic is used to, and then by the time you take that away from him, he is going through what's called a detox, right? So that's sometimes we miss it, and sometimes we try to go to Riga to get the feel of a city vibe. Even Riga too, but then again, it works for us. Oh, there's this African bar in Riga that I like to go to occasionally, that I can meet other Africans. I mean, the first time I went to the bar, I was just smiling because I had not seen an African for so long, for so many months.
I didn't know there exists an African bar.
It's called the Reggae Bar in Riga.
Okay.
Like, I met some Nigerians. I met some Nigerians from Lagos, and I wanted to kiss them. I was like, right? So it's always a joy to meet other Africans. I mean, you don't know. I tell myself that whenever I speak here, my speaking is I always think twice, because the way I, as a Nigerian, will respond to certain things may not be morally accepted here, politically correct and all of that. So the first thought that comes into my mind, I have to filter my thoughts and say it in ways that you guys would understand, right? So when I get to meet other African people, I can let it all out.
Yeah.
But it's been great, ups and downs, lows and everything.
And that is our diversity in the class, because
Exactly.
we are 30 people from more than like
20 different countries.
20 different countries. And it's actually the thing, like when you go up to someone, you kind of like try to imagine how he might perceive your question and how
Definitely.
Yeah, for you guys, like, as you live here, so it's easier for you to like kind of understand, like generally how is the culture, like do you do small talk or don't you?
Oh, small talk. One funny example, over the weekend, the class gave me an award. They said the award was that I would be the guy who would be late to his own wedding. Because apparently I come late for activities. Is that true?
Well, today you came 5 minutes earlier, so I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't agree with that, but maybe that's what I think about your attitude towards wedding. I don't know.
No, I think it's just general. The class, I like to come late for things, but then again, cultural differences. So there's something we call African time, which basically means that if a meeting is 12 p.m., it does not start at 12. It starts maybe 12:30 or 12:45.
Okay, that's not our case.
Exactly. So cultural differences, and I come late because I like to come late. I can't come late. It's usually good when I stroll into class late and everybody looks back and I'm like, yes, I'm here.
That's why you also missed the first days of the classes, because you arrived like I think 2 days later.
I arrived 2 days later, but that's because I was in jail.
In jail?
We should not talk about that. I was detained. I was detained in, I would not say jail, but I was detained in Egypt. I was transiting through Egypt and there were some problems. They did not get clarification over the visas and all of that.
Oh, you had some visa journey to come here.
Oh, it was a long journey. Again, because Latvia and Africa are not very connected. So I needed to travel to another country to
Yeah.
get my visa and then come here. I attended a conference, should I call it a conference, a couple of weeks ago with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Latvia, the Latvian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the Ministry of Education. It was a meeting with African students, right?
Oh, interesting. I
Yes,
didn't
in
know.
Riga.
Okay.
It was amazing. I went there and I saw the African students. I was like, what are you guys doing here? Because
Like they start the same thing about you.
yeah, and then we got talking with the ambassador, with the Latvian ambassador, and I was surprised because I felt like Africa and Latvia had no interaction whatsoever, and yet they were trying to build country relations and all of that. So it was very interesting to see that even though we've not been relating as countries, right now they're trying to make efforts to expand into Africa and Africa coming over here. So it's very interesting to see.
Interesting. Okay. Yes, and now let's get back to some some serious topics. What are your
Yes.
plans for the future?
What are my plans for the future?
Let's starting with the next year. Where are you going now? Like in September, where do you start your studies? Finland, Estonia, and what happens next?
So my next mobility is going to be Rovaniemi,
Finland, yeah.
Finland, the Santa Claus town, like they call it. So I'll be there from August, actually. I'll be there in August up till December. Then January to June, I'll be in Estonia for my project, for my thesis. So that's how my SDSI journey is going to go. I think we are going to have to come back here to graduate.
I don't know.
Because the graduation is usually in the open conference, SDSI Open.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if you are obligated to actually fly here. Well, that's something we will see. But
Yeah. Anyways, that's how my journey is going to go. So for the next 1 year, if you could call it that, I'll be shuffling between Rovaniemi, Finland, and Tallinn, Estonia. And then for the next future, I sort of like to think of myself as I would not say what's that word called for people that love to travel and work? There's a word.
nomads.
Nomads, digital nomads.
Okay.
I would not say I'm that, but I've always seen my future work experience as working between countries, working between continents.
Okay.
Because if you were to open up my head and look inside, I have these crazy, massive dreams and goals that are big dreams and goals, right? And in order to do them, that would mean doing some work in Africa, doing some projects in Europe, and probably the US. And to be honest right now, I'm not exactly sure how it's going to turn out, but I have that vision in my mind. And I feel right after the master's degree, getting an internship in order to practice what we are doing. Again, which is one of the good things of service design as far as this program is concerned. It's very practical. So it's not like university where you go and they teach you theory. Then you finish and you can't get a job. So we get to practice here. So I like that. But getting an internship and probably a job after to get a little bit of experience would be great. And then we'll see as we can make those wild dreams come true.
This is really nice.
Yeah.
This is really nice. And to wrap up this conversation, I just want to say truly thank you for coming for this and sharing your experience.
Thank you.
And then I just truly wish so your dreams come true and so you can make them happen. And because I really think you are capable of that. You have the personality, you have the ambitions, you have the, how do you say that in English? Very goal-oriented.
Drive?
Yeah, you have the drive. You are very, you're going to dig deep if you focus on something. I also know how you ask questions, to successful people who come in the class and tells their stories. You are very, you're very focused. And I think once you set up your mind on something, you will probably achieve that. So I can wish you to do that.
I actually wish I had this confidence in me that you have, because I do not have that confidence. So it's glad to know that you have this confidence in me.
Oh yeah, well, I think that's what humans struggle with generally with the confidence because we see the bad things in ourselves, not the good things.
Yeah.
But that's why we are here to say the good things to each other. So thank you very much for coming here, and for all our listeners, I would truly invite you guys to follow Joshua on LinkedIn. Is your LinkedIn ready to achieve like some attention, to get some attention?
Well, I think the last time I posted on LinkedIn was, it's been a couple of years.
Oh my goodness.
Fun fact, I'm not a social media person, but apparently it
So
works.
where do people can contact you?
LinkedIn will be great.
But you haven't posted there in years.
I mean, we need to start from somewhere. So thank you for having me. It's been great on this program with you. I think this would be my first podcast thingy because we had the newspaper feature and I refused to be on it because I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, we were asked to like participate in local newspaper and tell our stories, but that would be for local Latvian audience. This is a bit different, but I'm super happy to have you. And please, people, follow Joshua on LinkedIn and connect because I think there is worth connecting, and we will probably hear about him more. So.
Thank you very much, Linda. It's been great being on your show. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you. Okay.
Ciao.
Ciao. Bye.